Hello, everyone. This is Stacy. Welcome to The Landing. Last month, I was honored to be part of a Western North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina teacher exchange that was hosted by the Core Sound Waterfowl Museum and Heritage Center. This extraordinary event brought together teachers from each side of our state who have experienced devastation caused by hurricane flooding. Not surprisingly, gathering so many educators together for a few days resulted in more learning than could have ever been imagined. Learning that not only will be carried into classrooms through lessons, but most importantly, learning that reminded human beings that life is hard, but we are never in it alone. I am honored to welcome two incredibly special guests to the show. A wonderful mother and daughter pair whose strength, heart, and deep love for their Western North Carolina mountain roots shine through in everything they do. Their hometowns have faced unimaginable devastation from recent flooding, yet they continue to rise with grace, resilience, and a spirit that's nothing short of inspiring. Through the trials, they have not only held on to their heritage, but continue to help others do the same. I am so grateful to share this space with them today. Please welcome my new treasured friends. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Landing. We have some special guests with us here at the museum, and a few of them have agreed to step in and give us a little glimpse into their lives and their stories. And before I proceed, I'm going to throw this right over to our first special guest. And if you will, tell us your name and who's your crowd and where you're from.
My name is Lane Hoit. I'm from Avery County. My crowd is just my mountain folk and my people who love live music. Go to Worrell Fest every year. And yes, I just feel very blessed to work with some very strong mountain folk and everyone, through the experience we had in September, it has just been an outpouring of love and people who have shown me how to be a better person by helping and listening and acknowledging things and giving people space. And it's been a learning situation for sure.
Now, I'm sure people realize this, but remind us what you're referring to. What happened? What are you talking about?
Well, let's start with the Monday night. We had a volleyball game. We had storms were forecasted to come, and they said, well, it looks like we're going to get about 10 inches. So they went ahead and called school off for that Thursday and Friday. So that night, there were tornado warnings, tornadoes touched down. It was the heaviest rain I've probably ever experienced. Mm-hmm. And that was just that Wednesday. And
may I interrupt and ask
Sure.
you, when that's happening, that torrential rain,
mm-hmm.
Did you worry?
There was a point we were actually releasing the kids. It was right before the buses were about to leave, and it just started coming down, and it looked like a waterfall outside my window, and everyone just looked at each other. And It was kind of a moment where we're like, whoa.
Oh, wow.
What was that?
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept going. It just kept raining. And so waking up the next morning, you look online and there are people posting pictures. Roads are already torn up and crumbling away. And then the storm actually comes.
Wow.
And the river just rises, and you can see that muddy water just creeping into everyone's yard and closer and closer. And then you start calling your neighbors, like, you might want to move your car, or y'all want to come over here. And then you soon realize there's no safe space because there are landslides. And even if you're higher up, you've got the trees and the possibly a landslide to worry about. So we just kind of took a check of everyone in the neighborhood. And then you realize, okay, no one can call out. There's no way to contact your loved ones. And just being so isolated from the world is just a whole different, just a whole different experience. And it's almost like we went back in time. Like, we couldn't drive cars, we walked. The Dollar General had no power, but they opened the doors and they were taking cash.
Oh, wow.
Or IOUs.
Wow.
The Lowe's just handed out all the chainsaws and took an IOU for it.
Wow.
It was just like back to the barter system almost. And people just went door to door, do you need help? Do you need anything? Are you okay? Do you have elderly people? Who needs medication? Who needs oxygen? In those first few days, that was the hardest part, is because the people who already had a bad health situation, they were they were really in trouble. And you realize after the second day, it's like, okay, maybe the power's not coming back on for a while. Maybe it's not just like a normal storm. And then you start trying to reach people, and that's a desperate situation because they're mudslides and you can only get so far. And maybe you can get 2 miles down the road, but that's it. Or maybe there's a window where something opens, like a road opens up for a little while, then they close it again. So just being able to lose that connection with everyone, that was really tough. We talked about, then the bees came and the bees were angry because, everything was so flooded out. And
so I haven't heard about the bees.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yellow jackets, who live underground typically. So then you have people who didn't even know they're allergic to bees and they're having a reaction. So you're like, okay, well, how do we get the Benadryl? Like, where do we get...
Oh my goodness.
So really I feel like my job became in that time, like getting resources to people and trying to figure out who needs what, or can I deliver? I kind of became a delivery girl of sorts. I had a bike and a little trailer on the back. So I was carting, supplies, kids, dogs, chainsaws.
Oh my goodness. Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
And for a while, 105 was closed. So I could go up and down 105 there was hardly any traffic. Maybe some people who could get out from Valley Crucis were trying to find generators. I talked to a few of them, but there really were no cars on the highway.
Oh, wow.
So I was just going back and forth, and once the roads finally opened, trying to get back to school, trying to bring resources, because we had like propane tanks. So trying to figure out, okay, how do we get them there? Because people really need to heat their food and to have the lights on, and you had to power those generators with gas, and who's got gas, and
right.
It just being able to get resources to people was so hard. And then I heard from my neighbor who had been cutting trees for folks. I mean, he cut trees for 4 days straight, just ran that chainsaw, like barely slept. And he heard of a family that had a dad and a son who had come to the school, and the dad had a head wound, and River had no shoes, and he needs shoes. So my neighbor has a grandson who's the same shoe size, and she's like, I got an extra pair. And so it was just to bring him shoes, just like put some shoes on his feet. And
literally.
Yeah. But then that turned into, once I was finally able to get service, I had friends, what can I do? And I was like, well, I know so many people need help, but there's this kid who lost everything. And they were in a mudslide, and his mama was holding him. And Mom passed him to Dad, and then was hit. And he saw, as he was looking over his dad's shoulder, he saw his mom just go down the mountain.
Oh,
it
my
was just
goodness.
like half the house just went down into the river. And he, as soon as I saw him, he told me everything.
Oh.
You know, he just was processing it. I just kept coming to River's house and sitting on the porch, and I'd bring art supplies, and we'd draw on the front porch with his dad. And the whole family by that point had come because they were mourning the loss of Melissa. And for that family to like let me in to their home, and it's just such a vulnerable time.
Yes.
I felt very blessed that I could be there for them. But then I feel like now I'm just so connected to him. Like I'm just always going to be one of his people,
Oh,
you know,
for
looking
sure.
out for him.
For sure.
And I feel like almost his mama sent me
Well, that crossed my mind.
because I found some Halloween stuff at the Dollar General that was open, and I brought him, and he's like, "Oh, I bought this with my mama a few days ago."
Oh, my
The
goodness.
same thing.
Now, did you know this little boy before?
He was
a
in
student?
my class, but he didn't even remember my name. He just called me teacher.
Oh, wow.
But I just felt called to keep going and keep visiting with them. And then there were other kids I found out about, and it was like, if I could just come with some paints or, you know, just a journal and just have a moment where we express and you can talk, then that's what we'll do. And if I can take care of the kids for a while your parents go handle the stuff with FEMA and, you know, just in any way. So then that became my role. We're just going to sit on the porch and draw together. And River's brother ended up coming out and talking, and just to be able to connect with those people was very powerful and changed me forever.
That was my next question is how I know, or I can imagine how you have impacted them. You met needs that were physical and emotional, that they had holes that you filled. But how has that impacted you as the giver?
Well, I think I don't know. It's hard because sometimes you just overdo it. You don't realize that you've left it all on the field.
You're spent.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to sleep even though you can't. Like you just got to figure out how to get through it and process the grief. And I mean, for me, I've learned different ways to, like, I guess, cope with grief. You know, even now, like we just lost a mom and child a few weeks ago, just going off the road because it was icy and the roads are terrible. And gosh, it's just like you're like, gosh, I'm processing this grief, but like imagine River, what he's still going through, and he's struggling in school right now. And it's like, but he's in a cloud, he's in a fog. You know, we were talking about the Magic Treehouse book that we were reading, and I was helping him with his book report, and he's like, I wish I had a time machine and just hold him. And yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But we're all kind of learning together the process of grief and healing and all of it, because, you know, we're going through it. But for me, I mean, it's helped me be more grateful and appreciate things, and also just like be more aware and kind of look more for the cues people don't give you.
Right. They don't necessarily come up and say, hey, I have this problem.
Right. It's like, instead of saying, you know, I'm here for you, like, if there's anything you need, just let me know.
Oh, yes.
Just throw something out there, you know, and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to tell you.
Right.
Or they may, but a lot of times too, people are too proud. And so you just got to bring little gifts or do little things. And then sometimes you you just don't know what people are going through, and you got to just give people grace. And so it's changed my whole outlook, but I think it has helped me to be more grateful for every day, every moment.
Wow, I'm sure it has. I hope that you realize that, I mean, I have a strong faith in a heavenly Father, and I strongly believe that we are His hands. And I hope you realize that you were His hands and you help bless many lives from your willingness to do that. So
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you for that. And thank you for sharing your story with us. Any parting words? I know it's going to take a while before you're at your new normal, because normal is gone. But any parting words? Like, where are you now in the process?
I think now being an art teacher and everything too, I just want to use art in a way where we can like remember people and we can honor them and remember this whole experience. And so I feel like maybe at this point we can start, creating a way to document or to capture what happened, and do it with expressing ourselves in art. It's hard because everyone goes through different stages of grief and is ready for things at different times. So you don't want to overstep, but I think now is like, I've just been called to come up with different ways to, like, we're making a water bottle chandelier out of water bottles we've collected and painted. And
Wow.
A student we've lost, she was really big into recycling, and she would go do organized cleanups and everything. And it's like, let's do something to honor her with the water bottles,
Love
so it's not
that.
just a single use. It's going to be
Yeah.
like a Dale Chihuly inspired chandelier. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
and having the kids too, like, help me come up with these things, having them be a part of it. I think that's really powerful.
And healing for them
Mhm.
too. I mean, that's great. Life
Yeah.
lessons too. Well, when the chandelier gets finished, I'm gonna give you my information. I want you to send me a picture.
Yes.
That sounds awesome.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so I have realized that your mom is here with you at this conference. Is that correct?
She is. She is.
Well, let's invite her in and just get a little bit of her perspective.
Thank you so much. My name is Terry Worrell, and I serve as the interim school superintendent in Avery County Schools. On the day that the storm was moving to the west, one of the superintendents in the western part of our state, our Yancey superintendent, called me and said, "You really need to get home." And at that time, I was finishing up an assignment in Terrell County Schools. So I was driving in, and as I was driving in, the rain started intensifying. So I stopped in Greensboro and stayed there as the storm was moving into Watauga County and Avery County and Ashe County. And then I started reaching out to my daughters, who both live in Watauga County, and they live there with their families. And so I started reaching out to them, but their phones were dead. I could not get anything except their voicemails. And so I was extremely worried.
Were you hearing anything on the radio, on the news, or?
I was hearing on the news that it was
catastrophic,
horrific
Oh, my.
rainfall in the western part of the state. And
Not adjectives you want to hear.
not adjectives I wanted to hear at all. And it was extremely scary because I knew that one of my daughters and her family lived very close to the Watauga River. And the other daughter and her family, they live in a very remote part of Watauga County on the other side of the county. And so it was extremely terrifying to not have contact with them and seeing the reports of the extreme weather. And folks started talking about that this was weather that had not been experienced in 100 years. And so it was extremely scary. And I knew that Lane's neighborhood, that she was separated from the main road by a covered bridge along the Watauga River. And so when she did finally get in touch with me after several days,
I can't imagine.
It was just extremely scary. And so she was trying to determine how she could get out of her neighborhood, and then what she needed to do in order to get out of her neighborhood, and some of the things that she was going to try.
Risk assessment.
Right. And
there
so
you go.
I was, as a mom, I was just extremely frightened about what was going to happen next.
Because now you're in the unknown. Like you're there. It's no longer hearing it from, she's okay, and now you're all of a sudden thrown into another emotion.
Exactly. And I'm hearing about landslides. And I'm hearing...
Are you feeding news to Lane? Like, are you helping her kind of know what's going on?
About the outside.
Right.
Of, we're hearing these things, and are you okay? And it was...
well, and she said, I've heard that at my house, my neighbors have power up where I am. And so I said, are you sure? Because I've heard no one has power.
I bet it was hard to believe.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, okay, so do we try to get over there? And it's only a mile down 105, but, we have a toddler, and then once you get to the entrance of her neighborhood, it's straight up. So that was hard on a bike. But I biked back and forth to her house. There were rolling outages for the next few days, but at least we had moments of power and times where people could take showers.
Right.
So I was telling everybody, come take a shower at my mama's house. I mean, Mom was like, whose towel is this? I mean, there was all kinds of stuff when she finally could get to us. And so, yeah, it just became like another, like a haven for folks, because I mean, after about 3 days, you are desperate for a shower.
Oh, yes. Some clean water over you.
And it just does your whole mind. It gives you a whole different mindset. Like, okay, we can do this and this now. I at least feel human again.
And when she talked about how she got out, because they could not drive their car across the covered bridge, that someone picked her up, her husband, my daughter's husband, and my daughter's 3-year-old on the other side of the bridge, and carried them to my house.
Gave
them a ride, but would not take the dog.
And the dog was with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like, oh my goodness, what is she going to do to get the dog?
So I put the dog in the baby carrier. So I've got like a little trailer that I would normally pull my toddler in. And my niece, you can fit 2 toddlers. But so I put my dog in there and a chainsaw, and I came.
And you rode your bike.
And I rode my bike, yeah. Because also we had heard a family at Twin Rivers needed a chainsaw. Everyone needed a chainsaw. People were up there vacationing, and they weren't prepared with anything.
For sure.
To cut them their way out.
I would have got my dog too, by the way. Yeah, it's like, no.
And, you know, she had to go, my elevation where my house is about 4,000. And so she had to get there by the bicycle, bringing the dog. And then the other part that we saw and heard was every time there was a tree down, a whole group would stop and cut up the tree and get it out of the way. And it was like that became the very much of a normal that folks would just all jump out of their car and help pull the trees out of the road, or if anybody needed anything, folks just immediately just started helping.
I would say for the first like 3 or 4 days, people, I mean, you just heard the chainsaw running nonstop. I mean, people were just cutting their way out of places. It was so many trees down. It looked like really tornadoes had gone through, because when you look, it was just, they were turned over, like snapped, just all in a line, like just in areas. Especially when the first snow fell, you could really see the impact of the tree.
And we're seeing that now. You know, I serve as the interim superintendent in Avery, and we're still seeing that now, where we have to, each day we have to assess our roads to see which trees are down, which sinkholes, and which roads that we can put a bus on. And as recent as 2 weeks ago, there were still 10 roads on a regular bus route we could not put a bus on that morning.
And now, how do you assess that? Who helps you with that?
We have a team of people in our bus transportation department, our mechanics and our bus drivers, who all go out into different parts of our county, and we actually run our routes.
Wow.
Because we have to right now, because as you know, we've had some severe weather in January and February and the 1st of March, where extreme colds, like, 15 degrees, and then lots of precipitation, and our creeks and our rivers are rerouted because of the storm, and places that previously were not susceptible to icing, now they are. So we have to be extremely careful, and we have to be extremely careful because we have some of our children live in very remote areas, and there would be like a stop sign to tell you when somebody else was coming, because there was now only one road left, but you could not always count on the fact that those stop signs were going to work correctly. So there's just a lot of folks working together, people looking out for each other, and just a lot of kindness. And to be honest, in those first couple of days, we needed the cavalry, and everybody stepped up and helping each other, and then other folks have come to help us, and it's going to be a long recovery for us, because our hollers and our culverts, and some of those did not have, they haven't been repaired yet, and we just don't know when.
People still have to cross water to get to work.
Yes, they're
they
crossing
have to
water.
walk through
Through water
to get to work.
And they're very kind. Right.
Wow.
And they're very kind. And as interim superintendent, they will ask, well, could we wait until sunrise so we could sort of see where the ice is and everything as we walk to our car? And
wow. So they drive as far as they can, and then they walk to their homes. Wow.
And one of the things that we continue to see is, when you're talking with someone about what their current situation is, like are they living in one part of the house and the other part of the house has not been repaired yet, one of the first things they will say is, but so many people had it so much worse than we did, and we're fine, and so many people had it so much worse. And so it is something that the debris fields that are across from Lane's school it looks like a bomb has just been dropped and things have been destroyed.
Oh my goodness. Well, I could talk to you for a long, long time, but in closing, is there anything that you can share with our listeners? Anything that you can think of that folks could still be doing? Because a lot of folks want to, but we don't know what to do. I mean, and we know you don't need bottled water, right? So, like, what can we do? Anything?
I mean, I think bridges right now are folks who have, their private bridges. I think that's one of the big needs for folks is to have a bridge put back. And I've seen pictures recently of ones that are just been completed, and we're 6 months later. So,
wow. So anyone with that skill set or know-how, they could reach out.
Yes, for sure. Bridges are big. But, I mean, I think it's so nice because I feel like when we met you guys, we did just kind of know each other because we have been through things. And, just living in a beautiful place, you have to be a little harder, because it's a hard way of life sometimes. But also just so friendly because you do realize like the relationships are what get you through these things.
Without a doubt. Yes.
So I think if we could just have y'all up and we could just keep this going,
I would love to. Would
keep
love
visiting
to.
and
I'll take a shower at your mama's house.
Yeah, come on.
Absolutely. We have all kinds of towels.
All kinds of towels. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your story, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You will be okay.
And I'm so grateful for you guys.
Well, we're glad to have a little bit of help and assistance. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us again to The Landing. This podcast is brought to you by the Core Sound Waterfowl Museum and Heritage Center. I am your host, Stacy Davis Baston, and today's podcast was produced by April Davidson. Tune in again next week as we continue remembering, sharing, and learning together. Until then, stay safe and be kind.